Several hours ago, a local bar was invaded by man-eating monstrosities that caused many to perish. With only a few survivors left, they managed to escape the bar, and their whereabouts remain unknown. In the Nevada desert, Biker Queen rides her motorcycle to a worn-down local bar, where a group of strangers perished from gruesome monsters. A dog comes out carrying a severed arm, and the woman unhesitatingly shoots it dead. She takes the dismembered hand and holds it, revealing it to be her twin sister Harley Mom's arm by their matching sisters' tattoos. Seconds later, Biker Queen suddenly finds a severely injured bartender, who's surprisingly still alive, under a truck. She pulls him out and angrily interrogates him about what he knows about Harley Mom. He tries to say that the monsters killed her, so she threatens him to tell the truth by burning his hand on her motorcycle's scalding exhaust. Bartender frightfully tells her what happened by recalling the event several hours ago. Bozo strapped Harley Mom on a plank while she was supposedly dead to lure the monsters and kill them by exploding her. Devastated by her sister's death, Harley Mom resents Bozo for killing her twin. Then, she lets go of Bartender and mourns for her tragic loss. Afterward, the injured man tells her that Bozo went to a small town on the other side of the bridge to be with his brother but left Bartender at the bar. Suddenly, Biker Queen knocks him out with her gun and brings him to town on her motorcycle. 16 hours earlier, a Mexican wrestler named Thunder watches TV. Meanwhile, his brother, Lightning, makes love with a woman in the other room. Thunder tells him to hurry up since they have to pick up their grandmother, Abuela, before their wrestling match. Suddenly, a crashing sound is heard, so Thunder looks outside and finds the town being slaughtered by monsters. He quickly shuts the door, runs to his brother's room, and finds a monster taking Lightning's girlfriend. The monster drops her dead body and leaves, so the two brothers fearfully run out to escape. Inside a prison, the sheriff interrogates Hobo behind bars for making meth in his makeshift school bus lab. Afterward, the sheriff leaves and tells his men not to feed Hobo throughout the day. Shortly after, Hobo hears the men screaming, and a monster arrives and then kills the sheriff in front of him. He grabs the sheriff's keys before the monster can grab him. At a car dealership office, Slasher rants to his friend over the phone because he knows his wife is cheating with a man named Greg. Unexpectedly, he hears a commotion outside and a growl coming from his door. He slowly opens the door and finds a grotesque monster, so he fearfully runs away and gets in his car. While driving, Slasher accidentally runs over a monster, causing the car to jump, revealing his wife, Secrets, and Greg hiding in the back seat. Slasher crashes on a fire hydrant and confronts his wife about her affair, but she doesn't seem to care. Abruptly, a monster jumps on their windshield as Secret screams in terror. In the present, Biker Queen and her friends scout the town with Bartender. The grieving woman asks Bartender where Bozo lives, to which he says it's in one of the buildings. Meanwhile, Slasher, Secrets, and Greg spot the women outside through their barricaded room. Secrets thinks they're here to rescue them, but her husband thinks they're a gang. Greg agrees with his lover, so the two men argue. As the bikers prepare to leave, Biker Queen sees Slasher and Greg outside the building, so she gets off her motorcycle. Slasher brings Greg back inside, and the women approach them as they argue. Seconds later, Greg decides to open the door, and Biker Queen suddenly hits his head with her shotgun. She threatens the men with her gun and asks Bartender if they are Bozo, to which he says no. She asks if any of them own a brown Trans Am car, but Slasher says he sold one. Bartender is sick of her vendetta against Bozo and wants to get out of the monster-filled town. Biker Queen insists on finding Bozo to get revenge because he killed her beloved twin. She then finds Secrets hiding, and Slasher urges them to close the door. Outside, Tot Girl sees a car in the sky, which lands beside her, creating a loud explosion. Suddenly, a monster chases her while all the other women run inside the building. Tot Girl follows them, but everyone inside barricades it and doesn't let her in. She begs for survival until the monster claws her to death while the rest watch through the gap. Seconds later, the wall behind Slasher falls, so they all make a run for it. The women lose sight of Slasher and end up in Bozo's apartment, so they head inside. Arriving at Bozo's door, they slowly enter until a group from the room across threatens them with a gun. The man says this building is their hiding place, so they should go to the jail, but the Biker Queen refuses. Afterward, the women shoot down the group and continue inside Bozo's apartment, where they find Honey Pie, one of the survivors of the bar incident. She sees Bartender, who suddenly punches and bashes her head on the toilet because she ditched them instead of rescuing the remaining survivors in the bar previously. Ruthless, he continues to beat her and chew off her ear before she pulls out Harley Mom's gun, which she stole back in the bar. Biker Queen sees it's her twin's gun and questions her until bartender angrily rams Honey Pie out the window. She survives the fall and runs away while Slasher, Secrets, and Greg escape. While the trio hides, Slasher gets a call from Thunder so they can hide all together. They follow his directions, and Biker Queen suddenly knocks Slasher down. She forces him to lead them to the wrestlers. So they arrive at a metalwork shop where a monster surprises them, only to find out it's dead and being used as a decoy. Then, Thunder brings them to his fort, and Lightning is excited to see the women. Inside the tent, the group sees Abuela, and they ask the brothers if they killed the monster. Thunder says they did and recalls when Lightning used the Lucky, a knife he stabbed in the monster's rear end, poking its organs. Shortly after, Slasher says the jail is the safest building in town because it's made of granite. Thunder adds that Hobo is inside and locked up the place all for himself and his safety. Suddenly, the power goes on for a few seconds, and Thunder says it happens often. On the other side of town, Honey Pie hides and witnesses a monster capture a woman. Later that night, more monsters invade the local town. In the fort, the group plays card games, and Biker Queen wakes up from her nap, asking who's the man in the jail. Greg says the man is the town's meth head, and bartender adds the man is also Bozo's uncle. She calls the prison, and Hobo inhales his substance, then picks up the phone. On the phone, Biker Queen tells him to unlock the prison for them to hide in, but Hobo refuses and hangs up. Desperate to take shelter in the prison, bartender gets the idea to blow the doors up. The wrestler says it wouldn't work, leaving them hopeless. While the group thinks of a solution, Slasher gets an idea to make a key since the wrestlers are also keysmiths. Thunder says the prison is too far for him to see the lock to make the key, so Biker Queen gives him her spyglass. Meanwhile, Honey Pie changes her hiding location and tries to enter a store, only to find it locked. Suddenly, she hears a monster nearby and fearfully backs away. At the workshop, Thunder peeks at the prison across town using the spyglass while his brother takes note of the lock details. In front of the store, Honey Pie climbs a ladder, enters an air vent, then falls to the store. She grabs the telephone at the cashier, but it doesn't work. Unexpectedly, the lights turn on, revealing a man's corpse beside her, so she crawls away in terror. Back at the workshop, the wrestlers leave to get skeleton keys in their shop while Slasher watches them and the rest dissect the monster. In the fort, Greg burns open the monster's body while the others watch curiously. Meanwhile, the wrestlers start to make the key in their shop while the power is still on. While Greg looks through the monster's organs, he pokes it with a rod, causing the monster to fart a horrible stench as the rest gag in disgust. Sickened by the smell, Abuela leaves the fort and sits nearby. Unexpectedly, the monster's corpse starts to secrete a yellow liquid before Greg disturbs it further and gushes out green liquid on Abuela. At the keysmith, the power abruptly goes down, and a monster passes by, so the brothers hide. At the store, Honey Pie tries to get out but realizes she can't break the glass because of the heavy security system to prevent shoplifting. Eager to leave, she uses a bat, golf club, and crowbar, but it all doesn't budge. She then takes the keys from the corpse's pocket and tries to unlock the door until a monster surprises her. She fearfully jumps back and falls on the floor. At the keysmith, the power turns on again, so they immediately return to work. Abruptly, the power goes down, much to their disappointment. Concurrently, Greg messes with the monster's body even more. Having had enough of the man's experiments, Biker Queen points her shotgun at him, so he promises he wouldn't do it again. The power suddenly turns on again, so they get a better look at the monster's organ. They look closer, and a tentacle starts to emerge before a loud shriek deafens them all. Petrified, they all leave the fort, and Biker Queen shoots the shrieking monster. The wrestlers arrive back at the workshop and find Abuela drenched in secretion as she cries. Infuriated, the brothers scold Greg until the monsters try to get in. Then, the wrestlers put Abuela in a sack and tell the rest to get on the roof. The group runs upstairs, and Slasher kicks Greg down for all the trouble he caused. Afterward, the brothers climb up with Abuela while the others help them reach the roof. On the roof, they see Abuela with her flesh peeling off, leaving the wrestlers emotional. The rest reach the rooftop, and Secrets asks where Greg is, to which Slasher says he didn't make it. She then falls weak, and her husband comforts her before Greg suddenly arrives. Immediately, Secrets hugs him while the women point their guns at him. They lower their weapons, realizing he's not a threat before Lightning attacks the troubled man. Thunder gets a hold of his brother, and the rest are left stressed since they're stuck on the roof. Shortly after, Biker Queen and her friends look down to the jail building and see Hobo at the door. Meanwhile, Honey Pie recalls an intimate memory with her partner until maggots fall on her. Her partner's face begins to crack and explode a thick liquid before falling unconscious. She suddenly wakes up, realizing it's a nightmare, and she hears the monster copulating with a cat outside. At the rooftop, the wrestlers try to aid Abuela and begin to feel hopeless. In the store, Honey Pie climbs the ladder up the air vent but falls, leaving her frustrated. Back on the roof, the group hears a crying baby in the distance. Later on, the group rests as more monsters roam around the town. The following morning, the group looks down at the car across the street where the baby's cries are coming from. Greg decides to save the baby by using a cable line to swing down onto the road. The rest worriedly watches him head to the car, and he grabs the baby. Suddenly, a monster spots Greg and chases him, so he quickly swings back up with a cable line. With the baby in one arm, he catches the rooftop's ledge with his other hand until he loses his grip and swings back down. Seconds later, another monster chases him, and the biker women help by shooting the monsters. Greg fearfully runs and throws the baby up in the air to divert the monsters, and the monsters eat him while Greg runs away. Unexpectedly, monsters reach the rooftop and attack Splat Girl, so the group fights them off. Greg arrives during the commotion, and they finally defeat the creatures. Splat Girl wails in pain, and Slasher gets the idea to sacrifice her as bait for the monsters. Shortly after, Bartender and Slasher throw her off the building. She then quickly runs away when she hears the monsters approaching. The group sneakily gets down the roof, and Biker Queen gets on her motorcycle. At the store, Honey Pie fails to escape until she hears something fall. She cautiously backs away with her gun before a baby monster suddenly ambushes her. She tries to fight it, but it continues to attack and bang her head on the wall. Moments later, the group makes a contraption to catapult the wrestlers on top of the jail building. Thunder is hesitant about the idea but eventually gives in unless they test it first. Slasher wants to test it on Abuela, but the brothers forbid it because she's still alive. Down the street, they hear a man with his flesh melting on the road. At the roof, Thunder decides to test the catapult on Abuela, but his brother refuses. The wrestlers fight each other, and Lightning eventually gives in. At the store, Honey Pie notices the hole in the glass door and uses the monster's nail to widen the opening. On the roof, the wrestlers say their final goodbyes before catapulting Abuela. In the store, Honey Pie escapes just before the monster gets her. While the group is about to catapult Thunder, Honey Pie spots them. Thunder is launched, but he unfortunately falls to the street and drops the key. Unexpectedly, a monster attacks him while the group watches the terrifying sight. Meanwhile, Greg notices the overheating motorcycle until it shoots out a tailpipe and pierces his head. At the same time, Lightning successfully retrieves the key while hiding under a trash bin. He walks towards the jail, and Hobo sees him, so he prepares to ward off the wrestler. Afterward, Hobo lights a stick of dynamite and throws it out to Lightning, so the wrestler hides inside the trash bin. Lightning gets blown away from the explosion, and a metal shard comes off flying. The metal shard perfectly stabs Honey Pie's neck, and she falls unconscious to the ground. At the rooftop, while Secrets cries over Greg's dead body, the group gets startled when they hear a monster approaching. The barricade gives in and a monster suddenly barges through. Moments later, a bloodied and injured Honey Pie regains consciousness, grabs her gun, and screams in terror.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.